This is a bookcase. Looks pretty normal, right? There must be a great variety of books on such a large fixture. Wait, it's all Artemis Fowl? Well, not quite, but yes. Owen Colfer's books are taking up about 95% of the capacity of this bookcase. The majority of this 95% is Artemis Fowl. How could a book series that only has 8 books and a few spin-offs take up the majority of a 6-foot, 6-inch tall, 3-foot wide bookcase, you ask? Because I have every edition of every Artemis Fowl book published in the US and UK. Well, 99% of them at any rate. There's a couple obscure or extraneous things I don't have that I will mention at the end of the video. For now, let's get into what's here. Let's start off with what is not Artemis Fowl. Up in this corner are some Disney Pirates of the Caribbean books. They're not just here with Artemis randomly though. I could have chosen any non-Colfer books for the small amount of space here not taken up by his books, but I chose these because they transitioned into some copies of the thematically related Treasure Island, which received an introduction written by Owen Colfer in the 2008 edition. It's one of his favorite books, which he goes into more detail about in an episode of his short-lived podcast with fellow author and occasional Artemis Fowl contributor Andrew Donkin. Next is a Scholastic edition of Sherlock Holmes, also with an Owen Colfer intro. Here are various anthologies that he has contributed short stories to. Besides having a piece of short fiction of his, the anthology Once Upon a Place was also created and compiled by him. Some small format picture books for little ones. Down below are his larger format picture books, at the end of a shelf containing one of every novel he's released in publication order. These are all mostly hardcovers and mostly US editions. I am based in the US, so that's just what I ended up with most of the time. There are some real gems here. Airman is rightly acclaimed, while Warp Book 2 is a personal favorite of mine when it comes to his young adult books. The adult novel Plugged is my favorite among a more mature age bracket that Colfer has written for. For similar vibes to Plugged, check out his short story up here in Dublin Noir. This US hardcover edition of Highfire is a signed variant that was available at launch from select retailers. Because he wrote the 6th Hitchhiker novel, I've included the original Hitchhiker series by Douglas Adams here, just so the franchise is together on one shelf. Douglas Adams created something extraordinary with these books, which I can't recommend highly enough, especially for fellow fans of Owen Colfer. I'm sure he would agree. Slotted in here is a small promotional book made for the launch of Colfer's Hitchhiker book in 2009. It recounts the series up to that point in preparation for the new one. Up in this corner are some various extra editions of Owen's novels. Not comprehensive by any means, just some scattered paperback copies I've picked up in shops over the years, even though I already have the hardcovers. Highfire is something I won in a giveaway run by the publisher online. Getting to Artemis Fowl finally, I have virtually every English language edition that's been made, both hardcover and paperback. Whereas with his other books, I only made sure to have at least one copy of each. At the head of this shelf of non-Fowl books are the Artemis Fowl graphic novels. The bridge from those to his other books is his non-Fowl graphic novels, done in collaboration with the same team. From left to right, we have hardcovers of the original graphic novel run with Andrew Donkin, hardcovers of the Michael Morecci run, paperbacks of the latter, UK paperbacks of the former, and finally US paperbacks of the former that transition into The Supernaturalist. The Michael Morecci trio of books received a little-known all-in-one paperback compilation tome. It has no bells or whistles to speak of, but it exists, so it is here. Meanwhile, there are 2 copies of his Arctic Incident, because one of them is part of a print run that has severe mistakes and is almost unreadable in my opinion, due to its pagination issues that result in the book missing several pages in the middle of the story. The other copy here is problem-free. Getting into the main Artemis Fowl series now, here we have UK hardcover editions of each book, including the Fowl Twins trilogy, of course. These UK hardcovers of books 1 through 8 are, for the most part, pretty standard. There are some exceptions, though. This copy of Book 3 has a sticker inside with Owen Colfer's signature on it, which I gather is officially called a book plate for some reason. I like how the sticker shares its art motif with the book's cover art, as opposed to being a generic sticker. This copy of Book 5 has a somewhat more generic, publisher-provided sticker, but it is still cool. This copy of Book 6 is rare. It includes a sheet of perforated Artemis Fowl character art cards. Each copy of the book, when bought at Tesco evidently, came with 1 sheet of 4 cards, and there were 3 different sheets made, totaling 12 cards. This here is a complete set, thanks to amazing community member LOTR fan, who acquired these from Matt of Artemis Fowl Confidential fame almost 15 years ago. The Twins trilogy here are all limited editions from Waterstones, with a signed signature page included by the publisher at the start of the book, and in the case of Book 1, an exclusive short story that's not in the regular edition. Also in the case of Book 1, I brought this to an Owen Colfer book tour stop in November 2019, shortly after it released, and had him personally sign it to me. So you could say the book is double signed. It was signed once on the generic included signature page, and then again, more personally, on the title page. On the side of this bookcase hangs a framed photo of myself with Owen Colfer from that day. Speaking of special editions, next to the original hardcover edition of Book 1 from 2001, is the 10th anniversary signed edition of the book, of which only 1,000 copies were produced. Exclusive to the UK, it came in a Perspex slipcase, has gold page edges, gold print throughout the entire book, a special introduction from the author, and of course a throwback replication of the original classic cover art, which by this time had generally been supplanted in favor of newer cover artworks. The Artemis Fowl Files is stationed here alongside the main series, followed by the original standalone paperback release of the short story The Seventh Dwarf, which was later included in the aforementioned Fowl Files. Next to The Seventh Dwarf is an identically sized item, but it is much more unusual. This is the promotional booklet, Who is Artemis Fowl?, which largely functions as a collection of excerpts of books 1 through 6, intended to hook people into buying the books. Apparently, it was distributed with some sort of magazine. Besides the book excerpts, it also has some bonus content. Including something that I find to be rather notable: 3 exclusive illustrations by the artist of the graphic novels, which illustrate the time paradox excerpt. These were never reprinted anywhere else, or posted online for that matter, until now. And since the graphic novel teams never got to the time paradox, these are some of the only official illustrations of that story. Following that is the 5 books that tied into the release of the movie in 2020. The guide How to Be a Leprechaun by Matthew K. Manning starts us off. Then we have Andrew Donkin's extraordinary work, Artemis Fowl Guide to the World of Fairies. Beautifully illustrated by Gonzalo Kenny and intelligently written, this book is actually part of the book canon, not the movie canon, unlike the Leprechaun guidebook. It is funny and gorgeous and really faithfully expands on the canon of the novel series. Next, we have the book about the production of the movie, which is an interesting time capsule, as it talks about the movie as it existed before significant rewrites and reshoots were done. It's a great look at all aspects of the production, and gives me a great sense of appreciation for the craft on display in the movie. Next are a sticker/activity book, and finally, a simplified picture book retelling the movie's story for young children. Where that shelf was mostly UK hardcovers, the next shelf down contains US hardcovers. We start off with a 2020 movie tie-in edition of the first book, followed by a rarely talked about 2012 special edition of the first book with exclusive bonus content in the back. This one isn't so rare like the 10th anniversary 1000 print run edition was. It's just that not many people seem to know about this one. The next thing here is another special edition of Book 1. This time it's the 2020 Barnes & Noble exclusive, which features throwback cover art, much like the 2011 anniversary edition from the UK. By this point, the classic gold cover art hadn't been used in the US for a dozen years. This edition also contains the first and only reprint of content from the Artemis Fowl Files since its original publication. And now, finally, we have standard original US hardcovers of the main series. But wait, why are there multiple copies of some of these? Look closely. At a certain point early on, the publishing imprint known as Talk Miramax Books rebranded to simply Miramax Books. The first two books have printings out there with both variants on the spine. I have found the latter of each to be more rare. By the time of Book 3, that rebrand had happened, so there's no variant that includes the word talk. Book 3 did, however, have a later printing which updated the praise on the back of the book to include praise for itself. The earlier printings only show praise for books 1 and 2. Book 4 here has a second copy as well. I have this because of a small but amusing production error. The embossing of the dust jacket is misaligned with the printed lettering. Most copies that are out there are embossed just fine, such as the first copy that's here, but not this one. Book 5 had no produced variants that I know of, like the first few did, and no production error variants to my knowledge, so it is out here by itself. Book 6 is the same way in that there were no variants I know of, but there are two copies here, because one of them is my childhood copy, personally signed by Owen Colfer when I met him in person at that event in 2019. I had him sign this one because it is my favorite Artemis Fowl book, and it is the second of 3 that I had him sign that day. Anyways, the other copy of Book 6 here is more recently acquired, and it contains an official signed bookplate with art matching the book's cover, much like the UK edition of Book 3 that I showed above. I'd assume these bookplates were made and distributed around the time of the initial launch for their respective books. So both of these copies of Book 6 are signed, but over 10 years apart. Here is Book 7, which was the first to debut in hardcover with Owen Richardson art and the new series logo. Here next to it is a hardcover reprint of Book 1 with Owen Richardson art and that same new logo. This is quite rare to find in hardcover. The Owen Richardson paperback editions are ubiquitous, but the hardcovers are not. 2 years later, Book 8 launched with yet another new logo. So here's another reprint of Book 1 with the same artwork as the previous reprint, but this time with the new logo that's from Book 8. This edition is much more common and is actually available to order right now on Target's website. Less common are these hardcover reprints of Books 2 and 4 with Owen Richardson art and the logo that was introduced on Book 8. I imagine a similar hardcover of Book 3 or even 5 and 6 might exist out there, but I've never found evidence of them. I've only found Books 1, 2, and 4 reissued in hardcover with this Owen Richardson art. If anyone has any info about others, please let me know. Next up, wow, it's another reprint of Book 1. This time, the year was 2018, and the series got another new logo, which is the logo from the movie, which was gearing up for release the next year before being delayed. The book series also got new artwork from Goni Montes. This seems to be the only book in the series that got a hardcover reprint with the new logo and art. It was offered for a limited time and came signed. While the cover has the logo from the movie, the interior includes a unique logo font, which I believe might have been intended to be the new logo for the whole book series, before it was decided to use the movie one instead. I say this because the Fowl Twins trilogy here has what I think is the same font in the title. Goni Montes' art continues to look beautiful in hardcover on these Twins books. This copy has a signed bookplate provided by the retailer Books of Wonder. It appears to have been produced by the publisher, but Books of Wonder has a large supply of them. They include one with purchase of any of the Fowl books from their website. A US hardcover of the Artemis Fowl Files is here now, just like the UK edition capped off the UK hardcovers up above. The next things on this US hardcover shelf are not hardcovers, but they're here because they too have deckled page edges. Normally, paperbacks do not have deckled edges. They work on hardcovers because the hard covers kind of stick out and protect those edges. So I was surprised to find deckled paperbacks of books 3, 4, and Files. Book 4 here provides a clue as to what's going on here. International Edition. It's still English, clearly prepared by the same publisher as in the States, but it is a little bigger and has higher page quality than a typical paperback. Some online searching has revealed that these were made for sale in at least the Philippines, possibly elsewhere too. If anyone has more info about these, please let me know. Last on the US hardcover shelf are these mystery copies of books 4 and 7. I say mystery because they're not embossed like is typical. They omit the price. They don't contain any info about what edition or printing they are, like you would normally find on the copyright page, and they have different binding. My best guess is that these are made for libraries, but possibly not, seeing as the binding is seemingly weaker than on the standard releases. I really have no concrete clue, but books 4 and 7 are the only ones that I've ever found this sort of variant for, and both were by sheer luck at used bookstores in my area. If anyone has any info about these or finds other books in the series like them, with no embossing or edition info or price, please let me know. Now, I would like to return up to the UK hardcover shelf to show in more detail what is also on this shelf that you may have spied earlier: advanced reading copies, aka uncorrected proofs. Not every book had one, but most did. Let's go through these one by one. These two are US copies of Book 1, and they're early enough to not have the final artwork in place yet. One is blue and one is burgundy, and I could not tell you why both of these exist. Next, a US advanced copy from a little closer to launch, seeing as it now has the classic gold design in place. Same with this advanced UK copy. Following all those copies of Book 1 are the US and UK advanced editions of Book 2, US and UK advanced editions of Book 3, and a US advanced copy of the Artemis Fowl Files. Next, we have the UK advanced copy of Book 4. Its artwork kind of sticks out. For those who are unaware, this DNA-inspired artwork is what is underneath the dust jacket of the final hardcover release of Book 4 in the UK. So that's why the advanced copy looks like this. Meanwhile, in the US, advanced copies of Book 4 were produced in more of a manuscript-looking form, as opposed to resembling a finished book like all the others do. I've got that at the head of the section here, since its larger size would stick out too much if it were in the middle next to its UK counterpart. Next up is the US advanced copy of Book 5, sans final artwork, followed by the UK advanced copy of Book 5, which is actually more of a sampler in this case. It's only the first 3 chapters. However, it's presented in a very cute package that's supposed to resemble a top secret file, with notes from Artemis within. Next, we have US and UK advance copies of Book 6. In the US, final artwork was once again not yet in place. Neither the US nor UK publishers appear to have produced advance copies of Book 7, and in the UK there wasn't a Book 8 advance copy either. I have not found any evidence of those existing, so if anyone has one or has information about one, please let me know. In the US, there was a Book 8 advance copy, but it is only the first half of the book. At the end, it includes a very amusing exclusive message regarding the abrupt cutoff. Next up are US and UK advance copies of the first Fowl Twins book. There exists an even earlier advance copy of the UK edition, which I have found pictures of online, but have not been able to acquire a copy for the collection. I know it was an earlier copy because it does not yet have the final artwork in place. If anyone has one they're willing to part with, please let me know. No advanced copies of Fowl Twins 2 or 3 were produced physically in either region, possibly due to the pandemic. Advanced distribution to reviewers was digital only, and possibly only in the US, I'm not sure. On this Artemis Fowl branded flash drive that was made in 2010, I have placed the digital advance copies of Fowl Twins 2 and 3 that were distributed in the US. They're just PDF files. Nothing special. The only content that was originally preloaded on this drive were the 2 Josh Fix music videos that some of you may have seen. I believe the drive was distributed during the US book tour for Book 7. Laying on top here, I have some sampler and promo booklets. First, UK chapter samplers of books 3, 6, and 8 from their original release periods. And here is a sampler of book 1 from just a few years ago. It promotes the movie. A Fairy Passport promo activity booklet for kids from 2003. Also at the head of this shelf with the manuscript form of Book 4, due to its size, is a very thin advance sampler of the original graphic novel. These items all range from relatively rare to very rare. What is not rare at all is this sampler of the 2019 graphic novel that comes in the newest US box set of books 1 through 3. This here is something really cool. Alright, so that's it for the advanced copies or uncorrected proofs. Let's move on to the shelf below the US hardcovers, which is primarily dedicated to UK paperbacks. First up, though, is not a UK paperback, but it is here because this is where it fits. This is a US special edition of Book 1 that is too tall to fit on the US hardcover shelf as I have it configured. This is a genuine leather-bound copy from a specialty bookmaker, Easton Press, circa 2014. Each copy is signed by the author, but otherwise contains no bells or whistles beyond its rather special binding. Next, we have very standard early 2000s UK paperback copies of books 1 through 3. They have the same art as their contemporary UK hardcovers. Now, before a paperback copy of book 4 could come out, they redesigned the series with that explosive art style from Kev Walker. So there isn't a mass-produced paperback of book 4 with the DNA artwork that's the same size as books 1 through 3, at least in the UK, but there was a higher quality and larger trade paperback of book 4 with the DNA art. I say at least in the UK because I believe there actually might have been a release with this art in Australia with the blue DNA art, but I'm actually not collecting Australian editions. Also in larger trade paperback form is this copy of book 1. This edition has some history behind it. It predates the standard paperback above it. Basically, the retailer W.H. Smith made an exclusive deal with the publisher to receive paperbacks of the book at the height of its popularity in hardcover. At every other retailer, only the hardcover was available, but at this store, they got paperbacks they could sell for cheaper, undercutting the business of the other retailers, who were not happy that W.H. Smith got these trade paperbacks way before everyone else got the standard, smaller paperbacks a year later. At the bottom of this stack is the standard editions, or boring editions, of the Fowl Twins hardcover trilogy. They do not have sprayed page edges, signature pages, or the bonus content found in the special editions that are up on the UK hardcover shelf. Moving over one stack, we have standard copies of books 1 through 6 in that explosive Kev Walker art style that launched in 2005 or so. Once again, before book 7 could get a paperback release in this format, the covers got redesigned again. So book 7, like book 4, is a larger trade paperback in that style instead. Book 8 is this way as well, though this is not the Kev Walker art. It is the style which launched in 2011 with these reprints of the whole series. I have these 8 editions with the white render artwork split across the bottoms of these 2 stacks due to space and organization reasons which may or may not be clear to viewers, but it makes sense in my head. Along with the Kev Walker paperback editions, there is an edition of book 1 from a branding line called Puffin Modern Classics, which includes an intro from the editor of the brand. And above that is the UK edition of the movie tie-in version of book 1. Standard paperbacks of the Fowl Twins trilogy are at the end. Standard except for the fact that this copy of book 2 has an official signed bookplate inside. This is the 5th and final official bookplate produced for the franchise that I am aware of. The UK Fowl Twins trilogy features cover artwork by Peter Antonson, who also did the newest UK artwork for the original series, for its relaunch in 2019. This is the third time the series' cover artwork was changed in the UK. In the US, it's only been refreshed twice after the classic cover line. In both regions, the most recent refreshed line of books 1 through 8 has the same artist as the Fowl Twins trilogy in that respective region. You may notice there are two complete stacks of the 2019 Peter Antonsen series of books 1 through 8 here. The second set here has embossed covers with a shiny quality to them, almost like foil. The first set is not embossed and not shiny in the same way. This flatter set is sold together as an official shrink-wrapped product with this backing card. This here is an edition of Book 1 for younger readers. The basic plot is intact, but quite condensed and the language heavily simplified. There are quizzes and such for use in the classroom, and the publisher has teaching materials available online to go along with this release. In that same genre of educational stuff, here is a Scholastic-produced resource for teachers to help bring Artemis Fowl into the classroom. It has activities and curriculum standards and stuff, and amusingly, original illustrations of things in the text. And here is an edition of Book 1 from a branding line called Windmills, which appears to me to also be intended for classroom use. That's all for the UK paperback shelf. Now, let's finally move down to the US paperbacks. Let me first jump ahead and show this relatively recent Teacher's edition of Book 1. It's the full book, with activities at the end to give to students. Just wanted to show this after having shown the UK educational stuff, so they're all together in the mind. And now back to the beginning of this shelf. Before the paperbacks, we have electronic media. First thing on top here is a Nintendo DS cartridge with the full text of books 1 through 6 on it. It basically turns your Nintendo handheld into an e-reading device. It's a pretty cool product. They also did this for Percy Jackson and some others back in the day. Next up is audiobook CDs. These 6 are abridged editions read by Adrian Dunbar. These here are unabridged editions read by Nathaniel Parker. He read the first 5, then a man named N. Rytel was brought in for book 6's initial audio CD release. However, I'm guessing he was either unavailable to continue after book 6 or was unpopular, as they released a newer version of Book 6, with Nathaniel Parker returning to the role. Nathaniel then continued on with Books 7 and 8 and the Fowl Twins trilogy. Only the first 2 Fowl Twins got physical CD releases. Book 3 was digital only, which I do of course own on Audible. Also a digital exclusive is a Nathaniel Parker reading of the Leprechaun movie tie-in guidebook from 2020. That too is in my Audible library, since I cannot own these physically. These here are reissues of Nathaniel Parker's unabridged books 1 through 5, updated to use the 2009 Owen Richardson art to match books 6 through 8. Some of these were surprisingly hard to find. Next to that is a movie-branded 2020 wall calendar. In 2048, I'll be able to hang it again. Alright, so the US paperback collection is as extensive as everything else. Let's get into it. The first 4 books in the series had something called mass market paperback releases. Pocket-sized novels that are a very common size for paperback novels, but seem very small here compared to a typical Artemis Fowl paperback, which is closer to a typical trade paperback size. Here is Book 1's classic gold cover paperback. Why are there 4 or 5 copies? Well, same reason as I have 2 hardcovers. First, we have the first paperback printing. The price is $6.99 and says Talk Miramax. Next is a slightly later printing on which the price was raised to $7.99 but still says Talk Miramax. The next one, a later printing still, just says Miramax on the spine, while the price is still $7.99. However, on the title page, it still says Talk Miramax, despite what it says on the spine. Copy number 4 of the gold Book 1 paperback is still $7.99, but on this one the title page has been updated to remove the word talk, and also the title is much bolder for some reason. This third copy is my childhood copy of Book 1, and I had it personally signed by Owen Colfer in 2019, along with the previously mentioned Book 6 hardcover and Fowl Twins 1 special edition. Copy number 5 is much more different. It's from circa 2006 and has this promo bubble printed on the cover advertising a low price, and it contains an excerpt from the then upcoming Book 5, unlike all other printings. Finally, moving on from Book 1, we have standard paperback copies of Books 2 through 5 and the files. No variants of these to speak of just yet. Here are the 2009 Owen Richardson paperbacks of Books 1 through 6. Before Book 7 could get a paperback printing, the logo was updated, as I mentioned earlier, with those 2 different Book 1 hardcovers. So Books 1 through 6 have this logo. Then with the new logo, Books 1 through 6 all got reprinted again, this time also with 7 and 8 to match in the same style. Book 1 with the newer logo originally had a preview excerpt of 2013's Warp Book 1. This copy is a later printing that replaces that excerpt with one of 2016's Iron Man novel by Owen Colfer. Here is the teacher's edition I showed earlier, with Books 1 through 8 with the new 2018 Goni Montes artworks, followed by Fowl Twins 1 through 3 of the same style. There are 2 copies of Book 1 here, because this later one updates the movie ad on the front from soon to be a major motion picture to now streaming. These are not stickers, they are part of the cover. At the bottom of these 3 stacks are movie tie-in editions of Book 1. This is the standard one, and these 2 are retailer exclusive alternate versions that contained a different movie still from each other inside, in addition to a slightly different cover. And this one is a Scholastic version. I do not collect Scholastic versions, they are outside the scope of the collection, but I have this one on hand. So, is that the end of the print collection? Not quite. Lastly, in the print copy realm, we have box sets, slotted here in this specifically designed cranny. There have been a bunch of different box sets made by the publishers over the years. What's nice about buying them still in the shrink wrap in the present day is that you get absolutely crisp and pristine copies of older editions that are usually found in far less good condition at secondhand stores. First, a Barnes & Noble exclusive box set from back in the day that includes hardcovers of books 1 and 2. Every other box set here contains paperbacks, such as this UK box set of books 1 through 3 from around 2005 that included this pen, which has a radio embedded in it. Crazy, right? What's crazier is that it still works. Next, a US box set of books 1 through 3 from around the same time. It included this lenticular bookmark that translates gnomish. A US box set of books 1 through 5 from 2008 in advance of book 6's publication. These are the final printings of the classic covers before they got replaced by the Owen Richardson editions the following year. I noticed, curiously, that this printing of book 5 in the box set makes the title on the spine smaller than its earlier standalone release. US box sets of books 1 through 3 with the Owen Richardson art. There was one with the 2009 logo, and one with the updated logo a couple years later. Finally, US box sets from 2018 with the newest Goni Montes art. One is books 1 through 3, and it included a sample excerpt of the Michael Moretti graphic novel. The other is books 1 through 6, and it included a poster of book 1's cover art. These printings of books 1 through 6 in the box are smooth and unembossed, unlike the standalone paperbacks and the ones in the 3-book set, which are embossed and have a different cover texture with more friction. And finally, that's all for the print copies of the series. I also have the series in the Kindle app. I don't prefer this experience, but they're great for when I'm out and about and want to look up some detail from the text. Instead of having gnomish run along the bottom of the pages, it's all compiled into one big passage in the back for you to translate. So, what do I not have? I mentioned I have 99% of what's been released in the US and UK. My focus is on English language editions, so I have no foreign language editions. I also don't have Scholastic editions, or Australian editions, as I mentioned, or any of the large print editions found in libraries, even though all these things are in English. I had to cut off the scope somewhere after all. I hope this is still a noteworthy collection. I also don't have cassette tape editions of the audiobooks, which were produced up through book 4. I also don't have every single variant edition of all of Owen Colfer's other books, like I do with the Fowl books. I just have at least one of each. And as I mentioned earlier, something I know that exists out there and would love to have, but don't, is this earlier edition of Fowl Twins. Also, this sampler booklet of Fowl Twins. Some things I don't actually know if they exist, but if they did, I would want them. A theoretical Owen Richardson hardcover of Book 3, a copy of the 2009 Arctic Incident graphic novel with this logo instead of this one, and advanced copies, uncorrected proofs, of Book 7 from both the US and UK, and Book 8 from just the UK. Moving on from copies of the actual text, I have many supplemental and interesting items related to the series, as you may expect. Not a complete merchandise collection by any means, but I've got a few things. Here's some movie stuff, a mug from Disney's online store, a bookmark from Barnes & Noble, pins of Artemis's sunglasses and the Aculos. As I understand it, the pin scene is rather large in the realm of Disney. A backpack and ball cap from the defunct Disney Rewards program. A t-shirt, flashlight, and USB phone charger that were prizes in a giveaway around the release of the movie. Funko Pops. There's 2 variants of Artemis, and Holly has both a regular edition and a metallic paint edition exclusive to Books A Million. A full-size 27 by 40-inch poster of the movie that's pinned to my wall. Here's another thing that's really cool. And lastly, something of my own creation. Lego minifigures of the various characters, whose body parts are cobbled together from various minifigures from my Lego collection. Here's some stuff not related to the movie. Some bookmarks, letters from the publisher sent along with advance reading copies to booksellers, a Christmas ornament of Owen Colfer's recent novel, Juniper's Christmas, which was a free gift from Barnes & Noble when you purchased the book. A sampler of Airman and a poster. I already showed this flash drive. Flyers and a poster for his one-man show promoting Artemis in 2008. And one of the jewels of my collection, this DVD that contains footage of his one-man show, which is basically a stand-up routine. This was a pre-order bonus for ordering Book 6 from Waterstones, and if you want to see the video that's on it, Artemis Fowl Confidential has it on their channel. As you might expect, I also have a fairly extensive digital archive of things related to the franchise and Owen Colfer at large. I have dozens of hours of video of Owen Colfer and of the cast and creative team behind the movie speaking in interviews. Remember, on the internet, nothing is permanent. Any of these interviews could be removed at any time from the internet, so I have them here on my hard drive for safekeeping. When online media outlets go bankrupt, for example, they have no motivation or manpower to keep their archives online, so any of these things could go away at any time. Some already have. If there's an Artemis Fowl digital file out there, it's probably on my hard drive. I want to really thank you guys for sticking with this to the end, if you did. Some of you, I'm sure, maybe tuned out or skipped around, which is perfectly acceptable, and I hold no ill will.